Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones. Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute. This is the podcast where we get to the heart of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
I'm Gerald Christopher Cistern Porter.
And we are excited to be joined again by our old friend Paul Sully Sullivan. Welcome back, Paul.
Hey, how are you? I'm the host of what is now the Sully Baseball Podcast, available on your iTunes and your Stitchers and wherever the heck you listen to people like me in your earballs.
Now, when you were on just a couple of weeks ago, you were saying that, you've had this daily podcast for 1,600 something days. Is that right? And
yep.
Now but that's coming to an end? Is that what we're trying to understand?
Yeah, it's now weekly. And it's funny that my doing a daily baseball podcast, it actually serves a greater purpose in the off season. Because during the regular season, if you need a baseball fix, there's a game on. I got news for you. There's a game on right now. But during the off season, it became more critical, and I figured, you know what? I've recorded 600 some odd hours of podcasts every single day. Not 600 hours a day, but over the years. And
sure.
And I figured, you know what? I'm going to change it to one a week, and I'm working on several other video projects and writing projects to sort of expand the Sully Baseball empire.
There you go. So listeners, do not adjust your podcatchers. He's still there, just not quite as often.
That's right. But I'm making up for it by being on podcasts every other week as a guest, too. So I'm going to still do 365 podcasts. I just won't host them all.
We're bringing you as much Sully as we can. And today you're back to talk with us about minute 61 of Temple of Doom, which begins with a stroll through a deep red demon cave, and it ends with a dramatic close-up of your host, Kali.
Well, as you may recall in Temple of Doom, it begins with a gong strike. And so we've talked a lot about gongs on this podcast and on our Facebook Listeners Crusade. And second 6 of this minute reminded me of Willie saying, "I'm right here." Because in the background, you can clearly hear someone strike a nipple gong. And
What are you trying to say?
You don't have to Wilhelm scream that out. It's a legitimate type of gong. It's from China or from Java, and you find them from time to time in the Indonesian gamelan orchestra. But it's very clear. You can hear it, and it's like it was somebody said, well, John Williams or whoever said, okay, right here we need a nipple gong right here.
Wait, this is when they're still in the red cave? Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
It's actually really interesting because it sort of, at least for me, draws to mind again, there's something sort of mysterious and exotic and that's about to happen, but we're not entirely sure what. Now, again, I'm not from Java, so that's probably not what you hear if you're Javanese, but...
But see, to me, I thought I have that sound in my notes too, because the ambient noise in this cave isn't like anything that they hear when they turn the corner in a minute, and it just sounds like a big open, like they're in it sounds a lot like if you're in a big train station. And in a minute, when they go into the next room, it's going to look like kind of a Flintstones version of like one of those big European train stations. And so that nipple gong sounds a lot like those chimes they play. Like before, it's like the 11:30 Mayapur Limited is now departing, track 7. And they play that exact same bong.
Right.
So I think this is some kind of transit center.
I think you were talking about in the minute when they first got to Pancake. Is it Pancake Palace or what? Have we come to a consensus yet?
It's Pancake.
Pancake?
Actually, no. No, we haven't come to
I take that as a no. I take that as a no. I'm going to say Pancake. My whole life I've been saying Pancake Palace. And so,
yeah, go with Pancake.
And by the way, I just remembered this, that when like we'd be when I was like a teenager, we'd go swimming in the pool or something like that, and you stand up and your hair is completely slicked back. Like I would turn to one of my friends, or they would turn to me, and you sort of slick your hair even more back, and you go, "You will go to Pancake Palace," because we all thought we looked like the shaman dude. And now it's probably racist to do that, but we used to do. You will go to Pancake Palace, and so okay, now I'm offensive. There you go. But
You're only supposed to do Martha Washington.
Yeah, racism didn't start till 2004.
Yeah, you're good.
all right, thank goodness.
We finally see here the Temple of Doom
Oh,
Orchestra.
but hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I want to get to this for a second because in that minute, I wasn't just bringing up a swimming pool memory. Someone pointed out that they watched a cut that Lucas and Spielberg, and I'm guessing Michael Kahn, watched a cut of Temple of Doom and said, "Do you know what? We need to put a few things to pad it out because it's actually feels rushed." And so they put in a couple of those matte paintings, those beautiful matte paintings of Pancake Palace. And this strikes me as this was probably one of those matte paintings that they threw in because we just came back from the spike room with all the bugs, and now we're walking into the Temple of Doom. And this just seems like, all right, they had to take a little walk between him grabbing the hat and the rocks because this just doesn't look like anything else we even see in the rest of the movie, really. And
We were just talking about last minute why that happened. You're right.
Go.
This was a matte painting they threw in, but where they got this is a cool story. This is actually Lucasfilm made this for Return of the Jedi. This was originally a matte painting they were going to use for the Emperor's throne room.
Oh wow,
That's super weird.
clearly was either not in the Death Star.
Right.
Or the Death Star had theme rooms, like there was a tiki room or a cave room.
Yeah, the caveman room.
Yeah.
This, you know what this looks like? If we're going back to the Han Solo dream, I'm sure you guys hit this already. What are we looking at? That's not a cave.
Oh,
the mouth
yeah.
coming down,
Yeah.
escaping through the asteroid belt. I mean, this is
Yep.
clearly. And you know what? I don't know how much money I have in the bank right now, but I'll tell you, I would give you all of it if that's really Harrison Ford, Ke Huy Quan, and Kay Capshaw.
I wondered about that, yeah.
That's a guy named Ned, his wife and their son happened to be at ILM that day. Just walk across here. That's not Harrison. Harrison Ford was very high when this shot was being made.
And it looks like one of those like Nickelodeon early 90s green screen things where people are walking in place and they're moving the background behind them. Like it looks really weird.
Yeah, I do really wish, even as a kid, I really wish that this effect was better. Like even like as you were watching this in the era of movies that had this kind of effect in them constantly, I was kind of like, oh, okay, I'm looking at a special effect. I'm taking it out of the movie a little bit.
Do you want to talk about taking it out of the movie a little bit? Yeah, I remember seeing this thinking, that's kind of phony. My sons have seen Raiders and they've seen Last Crusade. They have not seen Temple of Doom. I think it's a little, I don't know. I just, my wife is not a fan of it. And I think, I don't know if I want to watch them watching kids getting whipped. And but I showed my kids a couple of scenes from it. I showed them jumping out of the plane with the raft, and when the plane hits the side of the mountain, and as Jerry, you said, it turned into a TIE fighter and it exploded. My 12-year-old son watched that, and he just sort of paused and he said, "That looks special effecty."
It does. He's exactly right.
It does.
He's no dummy. He's no dummy.
Actually, looking at this cave, I had the thought, and I didn't think of this before, even though we've talked about like these kind of not great special effects and stuff. But like Raiders only pulled out stuff like this when it absolutely had to, like with the storm over the Well of Souls when they're finding it and stuff, and obviously the opening the Ark and stuff. Like other than those, I can't think of anything besides those two shots that were like obviously like involving a lot of blue screen stuff and compositing things and stuff, and they look a little dated now, but they there was no other way to do that, and like stuff like this, I'm like I don't need this shot, so why am I looking at this fake shot?
Yeah.
Like just
I wondered.
keep it
You
tight.
mentioned like the sky and the storm over the Well of Souls. We talked about it. It had a biblical ominousness to it, and I wonder. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you guys, but maybe this is supposed to be sort of a Kali ominous minute.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is every time the special effects are lousy, there's
Yes.
supernaturality involved.
Yes.
Right.
Which goes back to saying that Kali made the plane crash. Like right there, that's the
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah. No, exactly.
that's the cue.
And I mean,
she
I
touches.
don't even know if ominousness is a word. So
Now,
It is now, yeah.
I'm using my own, mystical, spiritual, make up wordical things. When we turn the corner and we finally see the Temple of Doom Orchestra, and you know what I love is that one of their instruments is clearly a maraca or shaker made with the hallway crickets. It sounds identical to crickets.
Oh,
And
wow.
we now know where they get, where they fill their shakers and maracas. And, if you think about those hallways leading to the Temple of Doom, we had human skins drying out for the drum heads. Mm-hmm. And we had this river of crickets, clearly for maracas and shakers. And I thought about it, that whole area could just have been like a music conservatory.
Yeah, or just like it's just an assembly line.
We're aging the Stradivarius wood.
Yeah, it's just kind of, that's where they store things. That's maybe where they create the, that's where they create the instruments. I mean, they do all appear to be clearly sort of handmade, which I really admire. I mean, these days everybody's going to Guitar Center and you just get the same widget snare drum or widget, shaker. But, I mean, the Temple of Doom Orchestra really fashions their own gear.
You don't actually see them in this minute, though, right?
Yeah. You see the dude playing the drums, and you hear the shaker crickets.
You do hear, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they sound exactly like crickets.
Yeah.
well, I got to say I appreciate second 27 because that is the moment where we see the title of the movie. We see Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom in one shot right there. There you go. We got to appreciate it. Here we are.
The reveal of the temple is really cool because it just starts with them in
Yeah.
another, stony, Indiana Jones-ish hallway. And it just, in one shot, it reveals this whole huge, cool, weird thing. And that's they didn't have to do that, and it looks really cool.
It's a great Elliott Scott set, and it's great that this is one thing I do love about these films, and what I loved about and what I loved about a lot of the epic movies. I'm going to sound like an old fogey, but before everything was rendered, is you see that it's a place. You see that it's an actual physical place, and I'm sure there is
right.
there is some optics maybe here or there, but in this shot probably not. And so we
Right.
get to see it makes it's supposed to be scary and threatening when you turn the corner and you see this place. And then my problem a lot of times when I see an environment that's completely like generated or completely a matte painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wonder if like kids or any, younger generation seeing this are kind of like, well, that's not that big. That's kind of a small Temple of Doom, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's real, but yeah, why isn't the camera sweeping around it and zooming through stuff and going through one eye of that skull and out the other?
It's a big cast. They've got a big cast of extras, too. I counted there like 70, 75 guys like on this side, like of parishioners. Plus, you got the guys on the stage and Indian. That's a lot of people in a shot. Like that's almost 100 people. That's a huge stage and a huge set.
How long did that take to render, do you think?
Were all these people at the dinner table?
That was the question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
They all took their beards and mustaches off if they were.
that's what messes you up because they all wore disguises,
Yeah.
so you can't really
And
recognize anybody.
does every bedroom have a booby trap door?
I think it does because if you look in the layout of the temple, you can see those flapestry skin things on both the right and the left side of the stage. So that leads me to believe there's a hallway like Willie was walking down on both sides. So somewhere there's another Willie and another Indy, or like maybe another Willie and a Belloc or something in another room, and she's walking
Right.
along a different hallway.
But does every room have a giant spike room that collapses if you step on the wrong rock?
Maybe they have something else.
Yeah, a different little variety.
But we
Yeah.
did ask this question: where the hell is the entrance? Just where is the entrance to the Temple of Doom? Because it looks like Indy and Will, it's like they came up where maybe the organ would be housed.
Right.
You know, like kind of up
Yeah.
in the
They're like in the
loft or
loge.
wrap.
Yeah, they're in the cool balcony area.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cool, exactly. And so you're like, well, where's the front door or the entrance? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they got the good seats, so if that's the entrance to the good seats, what do you think the entrance to the bad seats down in the front, in the lower level are?
And how does anybody go up and get communion? I don't get it. How do you get across that chasm?
Well, you know what's funny? You mentioned that, Tom, and I have a note specifically mentioned specifically for you. It says here, this question is for Tom and all you Catholics out there. If you're in the 6th grade and you're a good boy or girl, can you become a Temple of Doom altar boy?
Oh, you should.
Or do you think none of the kids live to age 12?
Yeah. Those are your two choices. You either get sacrificed or you get to turn the big wheel that sacrifices people.
Yeah, that's kind of how life is, isn't it?
Exactly.
You know, you're like, no, you wonder because, you know, I was a server or an altar boy. You know, it's as for the non-Catholics, maybe, you know, I mean, those are the people who sort of facilitate the ceremony by holding up the Bible or walking down with the candle in the entrance procession.
Yeah, chaining the guy into the cage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Chaining, you know, cleaning up the burnt ventricles on the ground afterwards. So anyway, I don't see any there. I don't see any 12-year-olds like sort of budding Mola Rams.
No, yeah, they're all older dudes on the...
There's only one kid there.
Yeah.
And he's the kid in charge.
Yeah, I got a note about that later. But
And
yeah.
they make a big deal out of
Yeah.
the kid being there. Now you're like,
Yeah.
well, of course we know why, but he's the only kid.
Now, you're cutting ahead, Jerry. That's the second. By the way, we have to point out that Pete and I went back and looked, and there's no instruments in the scene yet. You hear them, but you don't see them. I thought we saw them too. I thought we saw some drums, so I don't want people to yell at us. So
On the other hand, Jerry's good at seeing things that the rest of us miss. So
that is true.
That is true.
Pete, that's the nicest thing you've ever said.
Aw.
And just because of that, I have a question for you, Pete. Is the Kali statue that we can see, is the Kali statue carved out of igneous rock?
Oh, that's a good question. But the Kali statue is excellent branding because it looks so much like the shrine of mild discomfort they pass on the way up.
Oh yeah.
Like you can tell this is the same group. There's no question that they.
Well,
Yeah.
and I'm asking because I mean they're igneous rock. I mean they're in a lava church. I mean it would seem like a lot of unnecessary work to carve it out of sedimentary rock.
Yeah.
I mean when you worship in a lava cathedral.
Yeah.
And as you point out, you said what did you call it, Pete? What's the small little temple?
Oh, the first shrine of mild discomfort.
Yes, the first shrine of mild discomfort. And if you notice that it's the same one and they're carving it out, as you said, this is the same people, it's the same church, it's good branding, and they're using igneous rock. Just because, you know, you use what's around if you're in a lava church.
Well, yeah, we talk about farm-to-table food, and it's all locally sourced materials. This is like super eco. This is, yeah.
Now, look at 47 seconds. It is a great shot at 47 seconds where you see Willie, Short Round, and Indy on the left on their little. They're in the Abraham Lincoln box where they're looking out, and you can see the whole temple in the wide shot. You see the people on the one side, what is obviously lava. And then you can really just see everything. You see the big wheel where they eventually see as low as the cage down. You can see the cage. You can see the guards, and so it's a great shot. You're a voyeur of a voyeur at this point. And right in between the legs of Kali, and I'm pointing as if you're in the room with me. But
I see. Move your hand.
There's the giant skull.
Yeah.
Where they, spoiler, they put the rocks in the eyes and up the nose. But, like, did they carve that too? I mean, the whole point of a skull is to intimidate someone that you killed this person, now all you have left is their skull. And that's a big-ass skull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That kind of, like, yeah, a real skull is scary, but like this is more like a Halloween decoration or something. It's
Well,
supposed to
now
spook
wait a
you.
minute. Now there are some minutes coming up where we do have some different sized skulls.
Sure.
But that's a huge damn skull.
I've got some information about this because we've been talking a lot about everything they get wrong in this movie, like the filmmakers and the writers get wrong. But one thing I'm finding that's kind of shocking me is how much stuff they get right. And this Kali statue, actually, there's a lot they got right here. Because Kali, when she was represented, they would often have like a garland made of skulls, like this one does. And they would have skulls all over it. And they always had 51 skulls to represent the Sanskrit alphabet. And so
wow.
she's got that. And then Kali, there's a famous story about Kali that there was one point where she just got completely enraged and out of control, and Shiva had to come along and sort of pacify her. And he lay down on the ground, and she stood on top of him, and she stuck her tongue out, and that calmed her down. And so we see that symbolism over and over in this scene, like in the next 5 minutes. And it's sort of this whole thing playing out in the movie is the shaman is sending help to Shiva to pacify Kali, who's dressed just like she is in the actual statues, like, you know, in real life. And I just think this is an instance where they actually got stuff right that for years we thought was just made up weird stuff.
Huh.
Wow.
Who knew? Wow, that's
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she's even got she also, the statues often, Kali is wearing a skirt made of human arms. And if you look, she's got that on here too.
She does? Those are arms?
Yeah, those are, yeah.
Is that what I was going to say? Speaking of
That's
sourcing
disturbing.
materials,
Yeah.
sourcing material.
Yeah.
They use every part of the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And the arms represent the karma of her worshippers. So it's like everything she's
wow.
holding looks scary, but they're like good things. You know, like the sword slices the head off, which is like you're cutting off the human ego and you're attaining enlightenment. So these are all actually good things.
Yeah, but I feel like, isn't that just what serial killers tell themselves?
Yeah.
You know, so they have the arms hanging here, but when they were at the little shrine outside of Pancake Palace, those are fingers. Do you kind of work up to the arms? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, it's kind of like at the carnival. You know, if you hit 2 balloons, you get the little frog. Then you have to trade the frog in, hit 3 more balloons, and you get the white tiger.
By the way, I want to point something out. I'm thinking about that scene because we had showed that, you know, he said, don't come up here to Shorty because he's obviously concerned that Shorty doesn't see something disturbing. But now let's go watch a Doogie ceremony here. You know, right. Would say, do you want Short Round? Why don't you go around the corner? Because I get the feeling those are arms. Something bad is gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's a cage. There's a door. There's a wheel. I'm a scientist. I'm doing the math. You've already been through a lot. We have survived a spike room and bugs. Why don't you take 5? Think about the Giants. They've won a World Series more recently than the Yankees had.
I love that.
You know, and so just and it is a Giants hat. Don't let anyone tell you it's a Yankee hat. You root for a winner. Actually, really, a winner would be the 35. Would be the Tigers who beat the Cubs. But you know, that's why the Cubs are going to win a lot of World Series for a long time. So don't you worry about that. But you just go around the corner with Willie, and you don't have to see this. I got a hunch.
Right.
You don't have to see this.
Yeah, Indy's reaction to this whole thing is a little. I mean, he looks surprised, and like I guess, you know, based on his conversation at dinner, he had an idea that like the Thuggee were involved somehow. Although we never really find out why he thought that, do we? He just sort of brings it up at dinner about the Thuggee, and then we see him here. But shouldn't he be a little more amazed right now and like a little more, you know, gobsmacked about, oh my God, there's actually a Temple of Doom here, and it's huge.
Yeah.
And I was right about all this. I thought I was just kind of like, you know, giving Chatterlall some grief, but there's like this entire operation here that no one's seen for hundreds of years.
Whereas Shorty, who I keep surmising might be the hero of the movie, every reaction shot of him for the next couple of minutes is just completely wide-eyed and open-mouthed in awe. So he's got the reaction we were hoping Indy has.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he's the adult. Yeah, he's the adult of the film.
Yeah.
He is. He will be. But can I make since they're all in the Lincoln box as Sully said, can I point out one thing which has nothing to do with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom? Do you know who wrote Our American Cousin, the play that Lincoln was in?
That was Thomas Crapper?
No, Jerry.
Wait a minute, it was Thomas.
I have the internet in
going.
front of me.
Hang on, our American. Wait a minute.
First, I was annoyed that you stepped
crapping-
on my line, but now I'm excited because this will be fun.
Oh, I know. I know.
Crapping Thomas?
Say it, Sully.
Close. Tom Taylor.
Tom Taylor wrote Our American Cousin. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy,
That's
Tom.
good.
I hope you're happy.
Kinda. I mean, it's been a while. I don't know.
There was a-
The one thing you remember from 7th grade.
Exactly.
And you know the line that always got a huge laugh that Booth knew would get a laugh and give him enough noise to cover him walking into the booth, into the box with Lincoln. The line that was said, and this just shows you that sometimes humor evolves and sometimes what's funny for one generation is always funny for someone else. But the line was, "Don't know the manners of good society, eh? Well, I guess I know enough to turn you inside out, old gal. You sock dog-a-lazizing old man trap."
Jeez. That's slayed him in Poughkeepsie.
Oh, my God. No, Poughkeepsie, Washington, D.C.
Slayed one guy.
Yeah, it slayed the president is what it did.
Jeez.
Oh, my God.
I always felt bad for the person who had the next line because, oh, man, I'm playing for the president now. I'm playing for the president.
I feel bad for Tom Taylor, whose career may have been ended by that one gunshot. You don't walk away from that.
That's another Spielberg film.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I came across an interesting word that I'm going to mispronounce while I was looking at the Temple of Doom and contemplating, and the word is iconostasis.
Oh.
Yes.
Iconostasis.
Do you know what that is, Pete?
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
How come you didn't ask me what it is?
Oh, stop it. We all know why I didn't ask you.
All
I
right.
talked to you about boobs and the statue.
Some kind of still image.
Well, this is okay. So the layout of the Temple of Doom is really interesting because there is this enormous lava chasm separating the congregants from the celebrant. And so I thought, hey, isn't that like the Byzantine and Russian Orthodox Church?
Oh,
where
yeah.
they have like a screen that
Yeah.
actually separates the altar from the congregants. And are you nine, Tom?
No, I've seen that. I'm totally. Oh yes, it's baseball season. I understand. Yeah, totally. Oh, tigers and bears and cubs. Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm sorry, Tom.
Iconostasis.
Oh no, that's iconostasis.
At least I'm not seeing drums where there aren't any. You freak.
That's fair enough. But anyway, I thought about it. It's you do have this entire, you have this physical separation between the celebrant and the congregants, and that is like the Byzantine or Russian Orthodox Church. And I thought, how interesting. I mean, did Molaram do that on purpose? Like, is kind of a, it's a lot like they say about musicians. It's like, hey, buddy, I'm on stage and you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the magic. That's the magic. People are always like, well, what does it take to be an entertainer? You're like, I'll tell you, it takes the guy to go, I'm on stage and you're not, and there's a huge lava chasm between us.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of I'm on stage and you're not, does this remind anybody of a scene from Star Wars? To me, this is the dais that Kali is on is almost exactly the same shape and size as the dais that Jabba the Hutt is on, with the trap door in front of it, and hanging on the wall right where the Flappistry skin is where Han Solo is with the carbonite.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, that trapdoor is pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, really, that is well done.
Hey,
All right.
you can write it down
The
if you
dream
want.
continues.
Yeah.
And there you have the band. That's Cy Snoodles, right? That's the
Oh,
people
yeah.
banging
Yeah.
the drums.
Yeah.
That's Droopy McCool.
Jedi Rock.
And, I can't believe I said Droopy McCool and that
That was
Tom
impressive.
knew what I was talking about.
Oh, totally. Old troops.
Droopy
Yeah.
You can talk Max, you can talk Cy Snoodles, but you go Droopy McCool, who was the
Yeah.
Zoot of the Star Wars universe.
Oh, wait.
What? Oh.
I have
Uh-oh.
this just in from Professor Christy Porter. And this is good. This is good because it has, I think Sully touched upon this. Maybe you leave the kid at home next time.
Yeah, why are fingers too freaky for him, but entire arms and skulls
Yeah.
and stuff are
Yeah.
fine? That is pretty good.
There's a great shot when they move up to Kali's face.
Oh, that's true.
On that,
Oh, yeah.
That's a really, with the real skulls, and it's a really scary shot. And I remember in the very first trailer they did, not the one that was on the video box where it was just a clip from Raiders they showed, but they showed, when the first time you actually saw clips of it, you saw this shot of the Temple of Doom, and then when the announcer said Indiana Jones, and it said, and the Temple of Doom, it was a zoom in on this shot, because this shot doesn't around. This is a scary shot. This is Michael Kahn's editing, Douglas Slocum's cinematography, the designers, Elliot Scott and everyone. This is all those things firing on all cylinders. And it's one of the things that's frustrating about Temple of Doom is that there are times, man, they hit the right note from time to time. Sorry, Jerry, if I'm stepping on your territory there. But when they hit,
Not at all.
when they hit, you get a shot like this. And when they miss, you get, some of the that's in the rest of this film. But I didn't want to. I guess we bookended it with one of my least favorite shots in the film, which is of the cave, and one of my favorite shots, which is the zoom in, or the dolly in to Kali's face, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. What's the difference? One is a matte painting that was in Michael Pangrazio's garage. So I painted this for a Jedi. So why don't we use that? What the hell? And the other is a set that was built and is real and it has weight and it's visceral. And to me, it's really one of the most effective shots in the whole movie.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's why we had you here, for the hate and for the love.
But it's interesting because that dolly in shot is, they do that exact same shot 10 seconds earlier onto Willie Short Round and Indy. Like, it's interesting, 'cause and that's the same shot you get when you first see the shaman. So it's all this stuff's all kind of magically tied together. They're all really cool. That same kind of dolly in shot.
Spielberg's a total one-trick pony. He just does that dolly shot and that's it. The heck. Well, listen. Sully, where can people find you now? We've got your slightly different show now. Where can people find that? What's it called?
Well, it's called It's called Sully Baseball on iTunes and Stitcher and SoundCloud and all that. And you can go check that out. Or you can just follow me. The easiest thing to do is to follow me either on Twitter at Sully Baseball. I do respond, and I will argue with you if you disagree with me. Or you could just find me on the Indiana Jones and the Listener Crusade, where actually, once we're done recording, I am going to share something with everyone because I know exactly what I'm going to share.
Hey!
On that offer, so.
All right. That's what we like.
Until you see what he shares, which is, God, these guys are morons.
Dummies. They didn't know about that line from American Cousin.
At this point, we're 61 minutes into Temple of Doom. If someone thinks you're an idiot or something, they've already made that decision.
That's true. That's fair.
I'm not,
I don't know if we're going to win them
that
back.
ship has sailed. We're halfway through Temple of Doom, for Christ's sakes.
Well, Pete, Sully mentioned the Listeners Crusade. Are there other places where people can find us and join us?
Yeah, come check us out on our website, IndianaJonesMinute.com, if you want to hear more about Han Solo's fever dream, or if you want to check out our new Indiana Jones trading cards, IndianaJonesMinute.com.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Wow.
those.
Those
They're
are
awesome.
amazing. They're amazing.
And please come back here tomorrow as we tackle minute 62 of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom here on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Well, all I know is, I guess I know enough to turn you inside out, old gal, you sock-dollizing old man trap.
On my head. Although, wait a minute. Does that count?
No.
Like over Indy's shoulder in that big reveal shot that we were just talking about? Oh, no,
I
that
don't
was
think
all
so.
just like parishioners.
No, there's not a drum in the shot.
Nah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry, you're full of...
No, you can hear it. You can hear
You can
it.
hear it,
You can
but
hear it,
see
but you
it.
can't see it.
Oh.
I hate you so much.
Well, I mean, what was the one that...